So today we're going to take a look at the Great West and the Agricultural Revolution. If you're in American Pageant, this is chapter 26. Um, First thing we're going to talk about is this clash and this resistance of the Plains Indians toward Western expansion. So what we see here, the first discussion question is, how did whites finally overcome resistance of Plains Indians, and what happened to the Indians after their resistance ceased? Some historians describe it as you kind of reach this point where the Native American tribes are just so distraught. You've got Geronimo with the Apache, you've got Sitting Bull, that these individuals are trying to maintain a resistance. But as time goes on, you have a massacre like the Sand Creek Massacre where federal troops just slaughter a Native American tribe after the Native American tribe has surrendered and thought they were negotiating, thought that there was some immunity there, and they're going to kill them, women and children included, here in this massacre, which then leads up to probably your other biggest battle here of this period is the Battle of the Little Bighorn, where the Native Americans actually score a major victory here, defeating General George Custer, who was actually the commander of the cavalry for the North during the Civil War, rushes in here. He's actually outnumbered. The Native American tribes kill him and his troops rather easily. It's a fascinating story. He could have waited another day and could have had Gatling guns there to help assist him, but he was was just so aggressive that he wanted to go ahead and take on the Native American tribes, and it doesn't end well for him. But while this is a major victory for Native Americans to be able to win this battle, it actually further motivated federal troops to drive the Native Americans out. And so you see Geronimo drive north. You see a lot of them attempt to evade federal troops in this way, and eventually they end up making agreements to go onto these reservations. And the reservation life for Native Americans is really this, really sad end to their you have all the way back to some of the early European explorers talking about the Native Americans just traveling over these long miles, hunting the buffalo and living this incredible lifestyle and culture that seemed to just spread across the continent, now condensed to these small reservation areas. And they end up succumbing to just a lot of the pressure that the federal troops are putting on them, that it might be easier. When is this ever going to end? So you end up seeing a lot of them agree to that. The next thing that's really covered in the chapter is what is this frontier life looking like? Okay, and this is a rather big question here about the social, ethnic, environmental, and economic factors that makes this such a unique frontier. Now you got to remember, just sum up a few of these things. First of all, you've got mining. You've got mining that's going to take place all the way in California, where they're going to find gold. You've got cattle drives that are going to be taking cattle and moving them from east to west, west to east, in this long fashion. And then you have all this farmland. So you really see the West begin to develop along these lines. You have a lot of people from China who come to help the railroads in California that are out there. You have a lot of immigrants that move into America from the East that they want to move out West for more of an opportunity. And so it's just a rather unique area that's beginning to develop, and it's still really spread out, still a lot of this is obviously where your Westerns come from. This is why that genre is so successful. It's such a unique place to be. And, this is where you get this essay, The Significance of the Frontier in American History, where Frederick Jackson Turner basically develops a thesis that so much of what America is the frontier. It's going where no one else has gone. He goes all the way back to saying this is why the colonists came over, the Puritans, the Pilgrims, they come over in search of this new area to make for themselves. And as long as we have the West, we have that. We have the ability to have people, hey, you don't like the way things are, you want to start fresh, just move west, just go out of the West and do that. And it actually happened quite a bit during that time, that people If they were frustrated with their job, or if they didn't think that life was going their way, they'd pick up with their families. A lot of times they would. They'd leave their families. That actually happened a lot too. Go out west and try to make a living for themselves there. So his theory is that was America. That's what America was all about. And he also had this concern that when the West was taken, when there wasn't anything left to go west of, that you might see a lot of problems, because it kind of operated as a safety valve, that people that were really aggressive, who were discontented, if they wanted to find something else, they had the ability to do that. But if it's all taken up, do they have the ability to do that, or do they begin to be more disruptive in society? You also have this discussion question that brings into account that small American farmers and the problems that they're facing. And something I want you to think about as you're moving through the rest of this course is you have farmers that are going to have a very difficult time for several reasons. I'm going to move this so you can read the rest of that there. Um, Farmers, first of all, it's a difficult lifestyle just because simply the weather can make things very difficult for you. So um, droughts, um, too much rainfall, insects, that can cause a lot of problems. You also have the reality of you are basically taking out debt to buy everything you need and then waiting till the end of the year to sell everything off. So if you are selling everything off and the price of your product drops dramatically, at the end of the year, you are not going to make near as much money as you made previously. It's a very volatile career path. So when big business, when there are certain weather factors that come into play, these farmers could potentially be bankrupt, have to sell their farm, have to get into a different line of work, could starve that quick within a year. Something like that could happen. There's just not a lot of stability with farming, and so there's a the question here is, so how much of this was weather, how much of this was big business, how much of this is government economic policies, how much of this is kind of world demand, that a lot of times our prices of goods are affected by what's happening overseas. So that's something that I want you to investigate in this chapter, and even from this point on. Then you're going to see this description of a populist pro-silver movement. And so what you see is a lot of these farmers are getting more and more frustrated with deflation, which means, so if wheat is worth, $2 a bushel in 1890, but it's worth $1 a bushel in 1895, you just lost half of what you were going to potentially make on selling that product, even more. So what a lot of farmers wanted was, instead of money just being backed by gold, have it backed by silver, which would cause inflation. So it would make things worth more, which would drive up the cost of their goods, wheat, corn. These things would be worth a lot more money. So then when they sold them, they would make more money. So this is where you begin to see farmers come together to start pushing for um, fiscal policy that a lot of your wealthier people did not like. They thought that it was very essential to have a solid currency that's based just on gold, and that of course, if you're wealthy, that really pays off because you have the gold, you have the money, so you want less of it because it makes your money worth more. If there's more money out there in circulation, then you have the potential of farmers are going to make more money, and of course money's not worth as much, and there is kind of the economic fear, right, of if you have too much money in circulation, it actually drives down the worth of the money. We'll continue to talk about that as we go in later chapters, but I do want to finish up this chapter by first of all talking about McKinley wins. Okay, McKinley is very pro big business, very pro gold backed currency. And so this is a huge win for the Republicans, but there is a man named William Jennings Bryan who makes one of the most famous speeches in American history called the Cross of Gold speech, where he talks about, is America's obsession with keeping the currency backed by gold going to have a negative impact on Americans? As we move forward, we now have this new setup which is going to be largely a poor worker versus a wealthier city individual that is going to shape up in future